So we've heard a very broad range of applications from Chris, and I think we can all probably agree that AI is incredibly pervasive, and we've all come across it in one form or another. So I'm going to focus on how we at Benevolent AI are using AI, and this is going to be specifically in drug discovery and healthcare. Yeah, I won't go into too much technical detail in terms of the AI. I have to say I was firmly in the second bucket, so I am not an AI specialist by any means, but I have been in the field for some time now. My background is in life sciences, but it's incredible to see the application in this industry. So without further ado, at Benevolent AI, it's our mission to unlock the power of AI to transform drug discovery and to bring effective medicines to every patient. So at Benevolent, we build technology in the service of science and to augment human intelligence and to inspire the discovery of new medicines for the thousands of diseases that currently have no treatment. And it's a very patient-centered approach. So just a bit of background, I'll just cover the current model of drug discovery and development for those of you who may not be aware. It's very, very expensive. It's very costly. It costs billions of dollars to bring a drug to market. Globally, you can only imagine what the costs mount up to. And it's also a very lengthy process. It takes more than 5 years for drugs to get, or molecules to get to clinical trials, and between 10 and 15 years to reach the market. So that will include obtaining regulatory approval. On top of that, it's a very risky process, so a huge proportion of new drug programs will fail. The high rate of attrition, I think, is a really concerning problem in this field. Often the wrong target might be selected in early stage, there might be safety issues, there's a number of challenges that are faced. And even when we get top-selling drugs, there is an issue around efficacy, because there's effectively only 30 to 50% of patients who take them are deriving the benefit from those drugs. And so this leads to a societal cost. There are still thousands of diseases with no effective treatment, and there are millions of people that are suffering, particularly from rare diseases which have no treatment. So this model is just not sustainable, and there's a need for a new and disruptive process. And some of the challenges that have prevented innovation in the drug discovery space include the fact that human biology is very complex. So in biology, we have emerging technologies which allow us a glimpse into the dynamics of the many components making up the complex system of human cells. However, it's difficult to have a unified and actionable theory for many of them. And additionally, you have heterogeneity within the human population, which just adds further layers of complexity. So the next key challenge is the underlying cause of disease is often misunderstood. So commonly diseases have been characterized by symptoms or locations in the body, but not by their underlying patient-specific molecular mechanisms or pathways. Doing so would allow us valuable insights into the actual causes of disease. And finally, exponential growth of data. I should just say data. I think we can all agree that there is vast amounts of data that's being produced all the time. And this is particularly true for medical data and biomedical data. There's scientific publications, medical records, patient and clinical data that's all being created on a daily basis. And it's just impossible for humans or indeed scientists to ingest this volume of data. So this does present an ideal machine learning opportunity. And this is where we come in. So at Benevolent, we are uniting human intelligence with technology to try and re-engineer and accelerate the drug discovery process and to deliver life-changing medicines. So who are we? We're a team of more than 300 life scientists, AI researchers, machine learning scientists, bioinformaticians, cheminformaticians, and that's just to name a few, who all work in cross-functional teams designed for breakthrough innovation. We have developed a drug discovery platform using domain expertise to derive insights in drug discovery from very complex data. And our technology is rigorously tested and validated by in vitro and in vivo experimentation, with in-house laboratories providing an experimental feedback loop to improve our algorithms. So we're an AI company with full capability from early drug discovery to clinical development. So as the name suggests, we do believe that AI has a huge potential to augment and to improve our ability to make data-driven decisions throughout the drug discovery process. So at Benevolent, we're developing a platform that allows our internal scientists to address some of the key issues. And as you can see depicted here on the right, the first of these is the right target. So we aim to leverage the world's biomedical information to infer promising drug targets, and then the right drug. So where we utilize our in-house technology to make informed decisions about the design and the synthesis of small molecules. And then the right patient. So we've developed methods to identify patient endotypes defined at both the clinical and molecular levels to really hone in on the kinds of patients that would be more susceptible to effective treatment. However, underpinning all of this is data and the way that we turn this data into knowledge. So this is having the right foundations. So we have a benevolent knowledge graph, which is fundamental to all of our processes. It's been built by unifying biomedical data and using data engineering frameworks that allow us to assimilate and track the data. So effectively, it's an integrated global library of unstructured data, which, thanks to our natural language processing pipeline, also includes about a third being disease target and target-target relationships, being unique and proprietary to us. They've also they've been derived using machine learning and methods and models. And additionally, we have proprietary research data. As I've mentioned before, we've used experimental data that gets fed back in to improve our algorithms, and that's incorporated in the knowledge graph. And then we have structured data, so molecular, clinical, and pharmacological data, as some examples shown here, as well as patient-level data. And all of these provide the foundations for AI prediction and augmentation tools for drug discovery applications. So it's worth noting that the Benevolent Knowledge Graph is therapy area and modality agnostic. So theoretically, there are limitless applications. It's comprised of contextualized, machine-curated relationships between genes, targets, diseases, drugs, proteins, pathways, symptoms, causes, and an array of other biologically relevant descriptors. So together, all of these biological facts represent what we know to be true about disease and about biological mechanisms. So then we have the Benevolent platform, which is overlaid on the knowledge graph. So as I've already mentioned, at Benevolent, scientists are co-creating with technologists to drive innovation and new discoveries across the entire R&D lifecycle. So this operating model is designed for rapid innovation and continuous cycles of research and development with the experimental feedback. So there's several key areas that we focus on in the R&D lifecycle. I've already talked a little bit about knowledge, and that's where we use AI to extract meaningful information from the biomedical literature scale. There's a few steps here that we employ. So the first is the automated data ingestion, where we source documents, extract and normalize into a format that's optimized for Benevolent AI NLP pipeline. Then we have named entity recognition. So entities that are mentioned in unstructured text are identified, normalized and grounded to BAI entities. And then finally, we have relationship extraction, where we use our NLP models to extract meaningful relationships between identified entities using contextual information. Then we have target identification, where we have relation inference AI models to help us predict potential disease targets that then get triaged by our scientists and used to generate hypotheses that are validated experimentally. So that's the assay and the feedback loop I've already talked about. For example, our gene-based expression models help us to identify proteins that are differentially expressed in healthy versus disease cells. And this data-driven target ID method increases hypothesis volume and also the quality of the target choices. Next, another focus area for us is molecular design. So as I previously mentioned, the current industry standard for small molecules is iterative, it's slow, it's an expensive process. It takes 3 to 4 years sometimes and thousands of molecules to get to the right one. So we build and use AI models to design compounds, which are then augmented by our scientists. The data is then used to update our models and then repeated. So our tools designed de novo compounds based on complex multi-parametric optimizations. The output is then ranked so that the best candidates are selected by our scientists for synthesis, while the others will serve to inspire chemists for further exploratory exploration of that chemical space. And then we synthesize the molecules in our labs and generate real experimental data, which is then fed back in to refine the models. So the result is a process that's self-correcting and requires fewer molecules to be synthesized, speeding up the selection of the final molecule from an industry average of about 4 years to just under 14 months. So machine learning experts analyze the experimental data from the wet lab together with the scientists that produced it. They train the models and then they use the platform to design the next set of compounds. So this approach of scientists, technologists, and engineers working together with the same data towards the same goal ensures that we're tackling the most demanding challenges, delivering biological data for rapid feedback and model iteration so that we can attain the results that we need. And finally, as I've mentioned, we've got a very patient-centric approach at Benevolent. So we have a focus on precision medicine. And this is where we process omics data, so including genomics, transcriptomics, proteomics, and all the patient-level data with disease, clinical, and biological metadata. So we fit a range of machine learning models depending on omics modality and the number of samples, and the results provided are groups of patients and groups of features, which then allow our scientists to select biologically meaningful endotypes or patient subgroups. So we use this data in a variety of applications within the company. The obvious one would be patient stratification for a particular disease to identify patients that would be more susceptible to treatment options. We also use this for target identification for those patients. And also assay mapping and also clinical trial design, because now we have the samples and the patients that will benefit from any given target and are the ones most likely to respond to disease. So in summary, we're bringing across experts from all the disciplines to deploy our platform around a single disease or set of disease mechanisms. And all these parts are applied together to deliver drugs which target the underlying mechanism of disease. We also have integrated feedback loops to ensure that the tech platform is continuously growing faster and smarter. I should also note that we have a developing, growing pipeline of our own drug programs. So all the way from early discovery through to the clinic. Currently our most advanced asset is in the clinic right now, and that's in atopic dermatitis. And we focus mainly on disease areas with high unmet medical need, such as neurology, immunology, oncology, etc. Here I should also note that, you know, we capture our innovation and, you know, coming from IP, I would be remiss of me not to mention our patent portfolio, which spans all the way across our technology and our drug program, so the drug output from the platform as well. So I'm not going to cover too many case studies. As I've already mentioned, we've been using this platform for our internal purposes. We have, however, had a number of collaborations with both academia and life sciences companies. So we've had, most recently, we had a collaboration with AstraZeneca where we were looking for potential new treatments for chronic kidney disease. And we've recently just been able to report that AstraZeneca selected as output of our collaboration, a novel chronic kidney disease target to advance into its own drug development portfolio, making it the first AI-generated target from this collaboration to enter their portfolio. So that was a nice little success story. But the main case study I'm going to focus on is, I think, the work that we've done around COVID in the last year. So it was all very, this is just a really good example of how our technology has been tested, I think, in the real life circumstances. So last year, at the beginning of the whole pandemic, our scientists used our knowledge graph, interrogated it, and surfaced potential drug treatments. At this point, we identified baricitinib, which is already approved drug for rheumatoid arthritis, and it was Eli Lilly's drug. Very soon after, we were able to publish this research. And in collaboration with Eli Lilly, we were able to get an agreement to get the drug into clinical trials, so with the US National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, and that was in April last year. And then by September, we already had positive data from that clinical trial to indicate that there was going to be approval for emergency use in combination with remdesivir because it was reducing the recovery time in hospitalized patients. So I think this is a really good example of the real value and the power of AI and how we can harness that and apply it in a healthcare setting, in a real world example, and with the collaboration or kind of a very collaborative approach. The accelerated process has really been has been tested and really stood to the test, and I think it's an absolute testament to the value of AI. This is what we could achieve in a year's time or less than a year's time, that we can actually disrupt the conventional methods that are currently being used that aren't working, and that AI can be used in a really purposeful and meaningful way. I think that's all I had.